Hi guys, I'm Sarah from Rusty Dog & Co. And if you happen to watch my last video, then you'll know that I'm in the middle of a pretty big kitchen remodel right now for my in-laws. And today is the day. It is demo day. Let's get this old kitchen out of here. Thankfully, I got this guy helping me today, so it should go a little bit smoother. We got to work gutting this kitchen by first removing all of the doors and drawers from all of the cabinets. Seems pretty simple, right? Well, it would be if all of the Phillips head screws weren't mostly stripped. What we couldn't take with the drill, we took by force instead, which honestly is kind of the theme of the day. Once all the doors were gone, we started working on removing the countertop from one side of the kitchen, which I have to say had some serious attachment issues. Whoops. Good thing that's getting covered up.
Gas is off.
Something for disconnect.
Yeah, do you have a adjustable wrench?
I don't know that I'd brought that, no.
Okay. Dad's got one upstairs. All right, what'd you get done while I was gone? Okay. So if you want to leave this here.
You can leave it there for now. I was trying to see if we could get them apart, cause
Yeah, put a pry bar in there. Oh, it's a screw there.
top of a pencil or a pen. That one since you're tall.
Yep.
Thanks, it's heavy.
All right, it was a screw.
Oh.
I don't know how this is attached to the wall. This thing feels very snug in here.
It's like that back is attached to the wall or something. There you go. It's somehow attached to this wall.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see. That's good and hidden.
Yeah.
Not attached. Not attached.
You can take that top out.
Good.
Just give it
I mean, it's basically ready to go. Watch those screws pointing right up at your jugular.
Gosh. With one side of the kitchen fully removed, we got to work removing the cabinets from the other side.
What's next?
So we gotta get the sink out to get the countertop out.
Okay.
Cabinets.
Sink out, because they're just little tabs that are holding it in. Yeah, what if I just bend them? This stupid thing. Let's just try to pry it up. You're gonna work from here over. What if we just pick this up and set it down?
The whole thing?
Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff on it right now.
Yeah, right now we do. We can change that.
We had a really hard time getting that sink to come apart from the countertop. Whatever adhesive or silicone they used worked really well. So ultimately, we decided to just take the whole countertop out as one unit. And honestly, I don't know why we didn't think of that to start with. It would have saved us some time and definitely a lot of frustration. And that's when we discovered the dead body. Don't worry, it's just a mouse. Sorry about your luck, pal. There was a bunch of insulation under the sink cabinet, so Phil worked on removing that using the chopstick method, you know, to avoid getting all scratchy. Then we just worked on getting all of these cabinets disassembled and removed from the kitchen.
Oh my goodness, a flathead.
Yeah. I had a flathead screw right here, I think.
Can you get at it with the...
I can't even see what it is. Is it Phillips?
I'm sure it's Phillips.
Nope, it's flathead.
Really?
Yep, flathead screws. You don't use those much anymore.
Not much.
That should do it. I say we just cut this smaller pieces there.
Dang it.
Never heard of this stuff. Let's see, we got us a recipe, some ketchup packets. Gosh, this is gonna suck.
Yeah, well now we at least got the exposed nail edge here, so
Yeah.
it'll be pop, pop. It'd be all right. Not gonna be too bad.
Oh, my husband, the eternal optimist. It's one of the things I love about him, but I'm a bit skeptical at the moment just how all right removing this hardwood floor is going to be. Gosh, my back's gonna hurt tonight. How about we bump up the speed a bit so we can get through this thing? Sound good? There we go. Now we're moving. My watch is going to consider this a workout.
Yeah.
This process was just a grind, to be honest, but we took turns ripping up a couple rows at a time, then swapped out with one another to rest our poor little backs. This buddy system was working pretty well, and we were about halfway through ripping up these boards when I noticed I lost my help. Couldn't find him anywhere. It was the weirdest thing. Just kidding. I granted him his freedom, so only one of us had to wreck our backs. I volunteered as tribute to tackle the rest of this job. It honestly wasn't too bad once I got in a little groove, but would I want to do it again? I'd say not for another 50 years at least. This is officially the last piece. Thank goodness. Got this trailer, load it down, it's time to get rid of it. Alright guys, I'm back in the kitchen for day 2 of demo here. We got all of that flooring out of here yesterday, all of the cabinets, and today I want to address a pretty big issue in this space. Now I had a sinking suspicion that this is probably going to be a problem, but now that all that flooring is out of here, I can definitely see that we have a major slope to the center of the room. I'm not gonna lie, a big part of me wanted to just ignore this and move on, but unfortunately that is just not who I am. If I'm gonna go and do anything and really try to make it the best I can, I gotta try to do things right. And if I was to just install the cabinets in here, first of all, because it's so high on the ends here, I would have to do so much shimming for the cabinets. And yes, I could do that and that would probably be okay, but what I'm really concerned about is here in the middle here where it really slopes down like that because of the type of flooring that I'm using. It really kind of needs to be a flat level floor. I just feel like that is going to create so many issues if I don't go ahead and try to fix this. So this section here by where the sink was, there was a pretty big leak here. So I was gonna have to replace this subfloor anyways. So I think since I'm taking all of this out, I'm just gonna go ahead and rip everything out and try to sister the joists and kind of bring this floor up to level. So that way we are working with more of a level space here. I wanted to kind of figure out how bad this slope was. It kind of slopes toward the middle in every way. So there must be some sort of joists that are sagging here in the middle here. So to kind of figure out what that slope was, I'm just gonna take my laser level here. I'm gonna take a measurement here on the wall. I can definitely tell that it's much higher here on the end, so I'm just going to take a measurement there to where my line is. There we've got 18 3/4, okay? And now I'm gonna come to the middle of the room where I feel it's probably at its lowest, probably about right there. I'm gonna take a measurement, and there we are about 20.5 inches. So we got about 2 inches of difference there between the center of the floor and on the ends on both sides. So obviously that's a pretty big slope. I thought about using something like self-leveler compound. If it was a small section, I might try that, but because of how big that variance is, I just feel like that probably is not the best option. So I'm gonna go the route of trying to sister the joist, get it level, do it properly, and hopefully that'll give us a nice level subfloor that we can sort of build off of and go from there. So wish us luck. We got some work cut out for us today. To get to those joists, we first had to pull up that subfloor, which was no easy task since most of those screws were either stripped or rusty. But remember what I said earlier? If not by drill, then by force we must proceed. Eventually, we were able to get a sheet up and take a look at what was hiding underneath. And well, that don't look good. This was not a good find. We got a whole another floor under there. So it's gonna change things. All right guys, well, we have run into a bit of an issue. We picked up that subfloor piece, the first one that we pulled up, and we discovered that there's a whole another floor under here. So in order to access those joists, we'd have to pull this floor up, which means that now this kitchen floor would be sitting level than everything else in the house, and I don't really want to have to step down into the kitchen. So we had to take some time and kind of think about what approach we wanted to take here. It would have been nice if I could have just got in here and got to those joists and sistered them and lifted them up so I could set the new subfloor on, but I just don't really want to pull all this stuff up. I don't know if that is a practical solution. I also don't want to use any sort of self-leveling compound here. Even if you can pour that much, I feel like that's a lot of self-leveling compound to try to pour for something that you're not actually fixing the issue. You might do all that and then still have sagging here. So I think we really need to address the main issue here. So after talking about it and taking some time to think about it, I think what we're gonna do is we're just gonna have someone come out and go up under the house here and try to jack up these areas that are sagging so that we can get as close to level flat floor in here as possible. That'll just make it easier for things like installing our flooring and our cabinets. It's kind of a bummer though, because I was hoping that we could just get this resolved today. Now we have to wait for someone to come out and fix this, but that's okay. This is just one of those types of things that comes up with a project like this. So we are going to move on to another step in the project. I think we're going to move on to taking down the rest of this drop ceiling now. We'll get this back in place. I do still need to replace this section of subfloor here that is rotted through because there was a leak there. So we'll get that new subfloor put in place either today or maybe I'll wait until it's lifted up. Anyways, just wanted to update you guys on what's been going on. Let's move on to removing this drop ceiling, shall we? The first thing Phil did was remove all of the panels that were hiding the beautiful plaster ceiling above them. Can you believe that? Yeah, no, that is hideous. And to answer your question, yes, that is wallpaper on the ceiling. Wow. No words. Anyways, I guess during this step, I got a really important phone call I had to take, or maybe I had to go rescue a kitten from a tree. So I was indisposed and Phil had to tackle this step on his own. Okay, I don't feel right lying to you guys. The truth is, it was raining years worth of mouse poop down on our heads and I was grossed out and had to get out of there. Thank goodness for him, or that ceiling, yeah, it might still be up there. With the panels removed, we had to figure out how to remove the rest of this ceiling support system. Now, I'm sure there's a proper way to remove this, but when in doubt, just yank it out. That's what we did. That's one way to do it. With most of the frame down now, there was still the matter of removing the metal pieces that were attached to the wall. And oh no, not with screws like one might think. That would be too easy of a challenge for someone like us. How about threaded, rusty nails, huh? That sound better? I will say they put up a fight, but we won that battle and finally had that drop ceiling fully removed. With most of the major demo done now, I wanted to clean up in here a little. Taking that drop ceiling down created a big ol' mess, and I wanted to clean these walls a little bit before I tried to paint them. So I grabbed a mop and I mopped the walls, which I guess was the first time I've ever done that. It's kind of weird, but they needed it. Okay, I think I got stuff as clean as it's going to get, unfortunately. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go around the room and try to fill in some holes. I've got a nice like Jerry size home here. You know, Jerry from Tom and Jerry. I feel like that's where he would live. So I'm just gonna try to spackle that. This is gonna get covered up by a cabinet, but I wanna try to spackle it just to keep other little critters from getting through. They might still be able to get through. I don't know, they probably can just chew through spackle. Probably should cut all that out and put a new patch of drywall in, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna put some spackle in there and call that good. Then I'm just gonna go around the room and fill any other little voids or holes in and move on. All right, guys, I think we're on day 4 of this kitchen remodel. Actually, I'm not sure what day I'm on. They're starting to all sort of blur together. But anyways, the guys just came and fixed the floor, and they were able to jack up that section that was really sloped. Now, we were dealing with about 1 3/4 inches of a slope from the edges to the middle of the room. And I had a suspicion that maybe a joist was sagging. When they got under there, they did see that there was one joist that had been jacked up previously, but over time it had just settled because there was no sort of like footer or anything underneath it, and there was a small water leak, and so that was causing the ground to get saturated with water. All that muddiness was causing everything to sort of settle down, and that's what caused that sagging here in the middle of the floor. So they took care of that issue, got it jacked back up. Now, we weren't aiming for perfection here. We were just trying to get as close as we could to even. Now, this is a really old house. It was built in 1896. I actually looked that up the other day. That's kind of mind-blowing to think how old this house is. So we're talking 1800s. I know we're close to the 1900s, but we're still calling this 1800s. So a house this old, there's gonna be some sags. Anything that old is gonna have some sags, right? So we weren't aiming for perfection here. We're just trying to get as close as we could to try to take some of that really heavy slope out and try to fix the issue, the underlying issue of what was causing that sagging. Now that that's taken care of, we've got about 1/2 inch that's still a little bit off. That's okay, because now I can come in with that self-leveler. If I've got some low spots, I can apply that and kind of feather it out and just try to get this as close to level as possible. Now, again, I'm not sure I'll be able to get it 100%, but I'm feeling much better about this flooring situation than I was earlier. I think it's going to make things just a lot easier on me when it comes to installing these cabinets, because we're working with somewhat more of a level floor. We're not going to call it totally level, but it is a lot less of a severe slope than it was. So now that we've got this flooring situation kind of taken care of for now, we're just gonna move on to keep prepping this space a little bit. I've put 2 coats of primer on the walls. It's already looking so much brighter and cleaner in here. I've still got to paint the trim and everything like that, but we're just kind of prepping this space while everything's kind of opened up. And I want to get all that stuff sort of taken care of before I get any sort of cabinets in here. Okay. Well, one problem solved. Let's move on to the next. With my walls primed, it's time to get a couple coats of paint on them. Now, I'm going to be using Sherwin-Williams Duration paint in the color Alabaster for these walls. Meanwhile, my angel of a mother is painting all of the trim a nice pure white color using some trim enamel paint. It always amazes me what a coat of paint can do for a space. It is already feeling so much better in here. This good. Look how good that door looks. You're not bragging on yourself, are you?
Well, just the tape. You have to call in the big guns when you're leaving.
Yeah. All right, so maybe some of you are wondering why I haven't removed this trim around the perimeter of the room. Now, the cabinets are going to be going up against this wall here, so typically what I would want to do is remove that base trim so that I could sit those cabinets completely flush up against the wall. However, to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about removing this trim. It's kind of really uneven. Parts of it go more under the house than others, and the main thing that I'm kind of concerned about is I just assume that everything this old is probably just covered in lead paint, and it is chipping a little bit, so I don't really want to handle it. Lead paint, if you don't know, it's usually fine unless you kind of disturb it. If you start chipping or sanding it or anything like that, that's where it can kind of get a little bit more dangerous, especially around like children and pets. And we had some kids here over the weekend when we were demoing everything, and I really didn't want to touch this stuff and have any sort of risk of exposure to them. So I kind of have just left it in place, and honestly, honestly, I just haven't been touching it. But I do have some lead test swabs that I've just had, and so I figured I might as well just go ahead and check this and just see if it has lead paint or not. If it does, I'm just going to kind of leave it in place. I thought about trying to paint over it, but honestly, I think I'd be better just to leave it alone, not touch it. The cabinets, the new cabinets are gonna basically cover all of this up anyways, and so it should not be bothered or anyone shouldn't ever be exposed to it once those new cabinets are in place. And then since I can't get it completely flush against the wall down here, I'll just have to add some shims up top and screw those into the studs. And so we'll just have to do things a little bit differently than normal, but I just feel like I would rather leave this in place. It looks pretty bad right now, but it's all gonna be covered up and it won't be seen, so. But while we're at it, let's just go ahead and give this thing a quick swab and see what we're dealing with. All right, this says first thing, wet the swab with water. That's what I did. After it achieves a mustard-like color, apply it to the paint for about 30 seconds. I guess we'll call that mustard. Red, violet, or pink swab indicates the presence of lead. I can already tell this is nice and red and pink. So we definitely got lead paint on this, like I suspected. Most stuff that's pre-1978 has a chance of having some sort of lead paint. So I'm just gonna leave this stuff alone. I really don't wanna mess with it. That's why I'm leaving this trim in place, if anybody is wondering. Everybody kind of has to make their own choices about how you wanna deal with lead paint, so don't by any means, I'm not telling you that this is the proper way to handle this. You can always get a professional to come out here and handle this if that's something that you're more comfortable with. I'm just going to leave it alone, and hopefully by just leaving it alone and not disturbing it, it's gonna get covered up and it'll be okay. Also, I just want to show you guys, so like I also swabbed on this part down here for about 30 seconds already. And so this is kind of similar to that trim, but I guess this has been like covered up with probably many layers of other paint. And so it's not showing any presence of lead. So I will paint over this stuff with some of the trim enamel paint that I have, but I'm not even gonna waste my time painting over that stuff with the lead in it because it is going to get covered up. This will actually be seen, so I am gonna touch this up with some trim paint, but that, yeah, we're gonna leave that alone. All right, guys, the painting is now officially done for this kitchen space. I've got 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of paint on the walls. That alabaster color is very nice in here. I am really happy with the color that I picked out. I just feel like this is a smaller space already. There's a fair amount of natural light though, and that's kind of reflecting off of these white walls, making this space just feel a little bit bigger and brighter. So super happy with the color for the walls. Now we also added a couple of coats of paint to the trim. Mom put a couple of coats of trim enamel paint on all of the trim, just really cleaning that up. Also, shout out to my mom. She's the absolute best for helping me on pretty much every project that I do, especially painting. She is always down to help me paint. So Mom, thank you so much for all of your help. This is looking really nice in here. I'm not gonna do any more painting for right now. I'm gonna wait until I get like the cabinets in here and start getting more of the stuff in here, and then I'll kind of see what needs touch-up paint. You never know what you might ding up anyways, so I'm just gonna hold off and do any final painting a little bit later in this kitchen remodel. So we are moving right along. I've got one more little piece of demo that I've got to do before we are done with the demo. A lot of people love demo. It's not my favorite, so I'm actually kind of really happy to be past demo and start just bringing some of this new kitchen space to life. So the last little bit of demo that I have to do, if you can remember, I have that section of subfloor that has rotted through a little bit from where there was a previous water leak. So I need to get that out of here, cut a new piece of subfloor and put that in place. I've been kind of putting it off because it's right around all the drain and the piping for this kitchen sink. So it's gonna require some cutting, and I've just kind of been putting it off, but we do need to go ahead and get that out of here and get the new subfloor patch in place. But after that, we will have demo behind us, and like I said, we can start moving on to making this kitchen look nicer and nicer every day. To get this rotted piece of subfloor out, I just used my track saw to cut most of it and then finished it off with my multi-tool. Now this section of flooring was notoriously hard to remove because most of the screws had rusted from that water leak, so that meant that we were going to have to, again, take this thing by force. Out with the old and in with the new. We cut our piece to size and then made some marks for notching it around our drain. Once we had our notch cut out, we could slide it back in place and screw it down to the joist. Lastly, we did a little tap dance across it to make sure it was attached well, and we could check another task off our list. You guys remember that time I had nice, freshly painted walls? Yeah, well, that lasted like all of 5 minutes, and now I'm getting ready to mark all over it. And if you're wondering why I'm gonna do that, it's because when I took down that drop ceiling, as you can see, maybe you can see, I'm not sure, but I can actually see exactly where my wall studs are. And so what I wanna do is I'm taking my laser level here and I'm lining it up on my wall studs, and I'm gonna use my level and just trace a line down the wall. And that's for when it comes time to installing the cabinets, I'll know exactly where those studs are so I can make sure I'm getting the cabinets installed and anchored into those wall studs. You won't see any of these pencil lines because it's all going to get covered up either with upper cabinets, lower cabinets, or this section above the countertop is going to have that tile backsplash. So none of these marks are going to be seen. And then this will just help me when it comes to the installation process. It'll just go a little bit smoother since I'm not searching behind the walls for every single stud, and I'm getting ready to close up the ceiling. So I want to go ahead and take the time to mark around the room just everywhere that those studs are so I can make sure that I'm getting these cabinets anchored into these studs because that's pretty important. I know it's kind of crazy to go mark up walls that you just finished painting, but it's gonna help. All right guys, I'm gonna call that a wrap on demo. We got most of the messy stuff done. I've got 2 coats of paint on the wall, 2 coats of paint on all the trim. It's starting to feel and look much brighter and nicer in this space. So demo is behind us now, thankfully, and we can move on to adding some stuff back to the space and kind of touching up some of the areas that still need a little bit of work. So in the next video, we are gonna tackle the ceiling. Now, if you remember, we pulled down a drop ceiling and we have a plaster ceiling that's in really bad shape. So we're gonna have to find a way that we can put a new ceiling up there that looks much nicer. Obviously, we wanna try to run some new lighting in here as well, and that's all gonna take place in the next video. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you for the next one.